And I think it's just you take one day at a time. I think that's the key right there. You take one day at a time. Because with a lot of chronic illnesses, you can have good days, you can have bad days, you can have a whole lot of bad days. You can have, those mornings where you get up and everything is off.
Yes.
You just take that one day at a time.
I'm Amanda Wares, host of the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education, and my co-host is Melanie Willis. We are here continuing our series on homeschooling while dealing with chronic illness or trauma. So keep that in mind as you're listening to this episode. Pay attention to what small ears might be around. Some of the content might be a little intense for those little ears, so just be aware of that.
So as you mentioned, we are on week 3 of this series. And so you actually sat down and spoke with our own Jessica Frierson about her homeschool journey and a lot of the things that she has been through, especially just in the past 5 or 6 years. And then after that, you and I will have a discussion about my homeschool journey and some of our various ups and downs. Then you have a brand new episode of Homeschool Helps with Amanda for us today. And then, of course, we will end with some homeschool news.
All right. Well, let's check out that interview with Jessica. We are talking about homeschooling while experiencing chronic illness. And that is either in yourself, you as the homeschool teacher is dealing with a chronic illness, or even in your kids. How do you handle that? How does that look in your homeschool? So I'm here with Jessica Frierson. And Jessica, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Jessica Frierson, homeschool mom of 10, and also currently media director with NCHE.
Awesome.
And it's great to be here today.
Fabulous. Thank you. And I know that you have dealt with some chronic illness situations in your family. So just share a little bit, as much as you feel comfortable, with our audience about your experience.
Well, sure. So one was more of a chronic injury in that I had a major pelvic injury in the time of having some of my last few children. So I had a son who was my first one to graduate from homeschool, other kids in school, and then I had preschoolers, and I had a baby, and I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. And so, I'm trying to just juggle a whole lot in a very high level of pain. And then the medication they gave me, well, then it's like you're in this fog. And so it was a toss up. Do I try to teach through a pain fog or a medication fog? So then I had surgery and I was non-weight bearing for many months. Had a hospital bed set up in my home, 7 months of physical therapy to be able to walk again. So we homeschooled from basically a hospital bed that was in my home. Couldn't walk upstairs. I think it was 2 or 3 years that I couldn't walk in the upstairs of my home. We just survived. And so, did things like I used my cell phone a lot. I would give the kids my cell phone to go up and take a picture of the first shelf on the left. And they'd bring it back to me and say, okay, I need this book right here. Bring me this book and bring me your book. And, we also utilized a lot of videos. I had a subscription to an educational video streaming service. And kind of those were somewhat planned and then somewhat backup. I had specific things planned out, but then the days that was just, okay, I can't do what we were going to do. So, okay, here, watch this. So we're still learning something's being accomplished, but also kids just learned a whole lot of really important life skills.
Yes.
Which my kids, as they've gotten older, because I have 10 children ages 9 to 30. So I have grown kids out on their own. And I think every one of them at some point has come to me and said something along the lines of, my peers don't know how to do just some basic things in life that you would think an adult would know how to do, the basic adulting.
Yes.
And they're really glad that they learned how to do those things. And then again, with COVID, early on, my family had a really rough time with it. And I and my daughter had long COVID, had about an 18-month recovery myself. My daughter was about 13 months. And through that time period, just really struggling just with basic daily functions. And to tell you the truth, I, I thought so many times I couldn't, as hard as it was to homeschool through that, I couldn't have gotten people to school every day. Matter of
Right.
fact, the first time I tried to drive myself anywhere, it was about 4 months out. I pulled out from my driveway, I drove a little bit, and I realized I couldn't remember where I was going, and I didn't know how to get back home.
Oh, man.
That's how bad it was. I had inflammation in my brain and I had blood clots through my lungs. Just had a lot going on there. I had developed asthma, never had that before, really severe asthma. And
Oh,
so I couldn't have gotten my kids up and ready for school and get them on the school bus, the whole routine, picking them up, do homework. I couldn't have done that.
yeah.
As hard as it was homeschooling through that. And we did a lot of homeschooling with me again on my bed and them coming
Oh,
around me. One of the things I was so determined that I was not going to let my brain go that I did a lot of things with my younger ones of like, hey, let's play this memory game. And it was a
oh,
game for them. For me, I was like trying to retrain my brain to function again. And
yeah.
so I couldn't even do basic math. So forget, I've been teaching algebra 2, geometry, and now I couldn't add 6 plus 2. I couldn't even remember what were the two numbers I was supposed to add? Couldn't remember them.
Wow.
So trying to teach through that was really, really hard. But I know it was better than the alternative. And that gave my kids an opportunity to take more responsibility for their schooling. That's
Mm,
when my oldest daughter began doing her own lesson plans. And she just took over with that and she thrived doing her own. And it turns out she worked much she knew her. We always talk about homeschooling positives, how we know our kids better than the teacher at the school. Well, you know what? Our kids know themselves better even than we do.
that's
So
that's neat.
she did so well with her own lesson plans and just carried herself through on a better rate than if I'd been at my absolute top because that's what worked for her.
Yeah.
And then, one of the things that's the quote about when you know you've learned something or how to learn something best is when you teach another. And so having some of my kids, go help your brother with his reading. And that just really helped them maybe in that time period better than them doing it, their own.
Yeah.
Long term, thankfully that those things have mostly resolved, but had they not, so a lot of people are in situations that aren't gonna resolve, and I think it's just you take one day at a time. I think that's the key right there. You take one day at a time, because with a lot of chronic illnesses, you can have good days, you can have bad days, you have a whole lot of bad days. You can have, those mornings where you get up and everything is off.
Yes.
You just take that one day at a time, and another thing that I did was that's when I started doing my lesson plans in shorter chunks, and I
Mm,
would do plan out maybe I used to do them in 6-week chunks, and that's where I am now, but in those time frames, I might plan out 2 weeks.
yeah.
Now, we may not even do those. It may end up it took us 4 weeks to do those 2 weeks, but at least I had something to refer back to keep everyone on somewhat of a track. But it
Yeah.
also helped me not to feel too overwhelmed, like, oh, I planned all this out, the whole thing's off. It's just like, okay, I can get back on that. It just helped me mentally to deal with that better, to not have a bigger chunk of being off schedule.
Yeah.
And then I think, we also went through things with my daughter, I mentioned with her, and then another daughter that went through a period, she was diagnosed with epilepsy. But this whole period of the testing, we ended up spending 5 days at the Children's Hospital in the epilepsy monitoring unit. And we just took school with us, and the nursing staff there were so great, but they came in and they had their activities director with all these lists of activities. And she's like, oh, do I have to do those? And they said, well, no, we're just used to kids like being bored and all they do is watch TV all day and then they get all, in a funk because of that. And like, so that's pretty cool. You can just do your schoolwork here. And we had, games. And it was a great time for us together. Not necessarily the funnest time, but
Sure.
those are significant bonding moments in life, and I think she and I will always remember the night because part of that epilepsy testing, trying to trigger an episode, a seizure, is sleep deprivation.
Oh, wow.
Well, guess what happens when a child has to be sleep deprived? Guess who also does? Yeah, mom also.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, yeah, we went through a lot with that, and just the flexibility of homeschooling that you can take it to the hospital if you need to, or take it to
Yeah.
the doctor's office. Some people with chronic illness making a lot of trips even in a week. And so being able to adjust your schedule, take things with you, find the curriculum that works for that. Some curriculums don't work too well on the go. So
Right.
being able to find something that does, that we can just pack up this little satchel, take it with us, listening to audio tapes in the car while you're driving. There's just so
Yeah.
many little things you can do that end up with that child having a far better educational experience and outcome than if
Yeah.
they were in a school where they were missing a lot of days for those doctor's appointments and hospital stays, or mom being totally wiped out that she just can't do it.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And I love, I've talked to several people now that have been dealing with chronic illness in one way or another. And the ability in a time that could be just topsy turvy in your family, when mom is in bed and can't get out, or if one of the kids, having the anchor of the consistency of homeschool
Hmm.
seems to be a theme that has really helped. It's really helped to have that to hang on to when everything else seems like everything else in the family is
Yes.
crazy. So
I
did
think
you
that is
find that?
so true
Yeah.
for both the mom and the kids. I think particularly for the kids,
Yeah.
they need to have routine. It's just
Yeah.
something that we all kind of need is routine. And you're right. When everything in the world is so topsy turvy and unsettled, having something that's stable without being a stressor.
Right.
Which, you could say, well, getting up Monday through Friday, meeting that yellow bus, and, that's stable, right? Yeah, but that's a stressor. So this is a stability that comes with much, much less stress factor and enjoyable, and I guess the other thing, we really focus in our school. I try to, everything can't be fun in life, but to make it as enjoyable as possible. So giving the kids, some ownership in what are we going to do for school. And so some of those days when it's felt really bad, say, okay, guys, I'm really not able to do what we had planned. What do you think we should do for school today? And,
Oh,
hearing their ideas and being able to go through, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do this. I mean, some days I have some really great books. Science and history books generally, I like to invest in really good books. So some days, it would just be, hey, go get a book from the history shelf, go get a book from the science shelf, read it, come back with any questions you have, and we're just gonna have a discussion on what you learned. And it was them, feedback from them was what
yeah.
I think helped them really learn more and also made them more involved.
Love that. That is so cool. All right. Well, I'm so glad that I think I knew you through most of those times. And I thought really inspirational and just encouraging to see how your family, how you guys navigated all that stuff. And I'm glad that now you're mostly on the other side of it. But thank you for sharing. I think this will be so encouraging to our watchers and listeners. Well, I tell you, Jessica amazes me all the time anyway, because she has a whole bunch of kids and she always has a lot going on. And I can't imagine, homeschooling and all of that through both surgery and really kind of being bedridden for a fair amount of time. And then all of the COVID and long COVID and all the implications that they dealt with that. That's just amazing. And, and I feel that I really want to speak to homeschoolers, especially newer homeschoolers,
Mhm.
that life just is life. And don't let the little things that come up or the big giant things that come up get in your way of the why that you chose to homeschool. Because no matter what, life is going to happen. And sometimes, as we discussed a couple episodes ago, it's easier just to keep homeschooling instead of having to get your children dressed and ready for public school and send them with money and do all those things on top of being sick or dealing with big things in your life. It'd be a lot easier just to keep them home and not have to get them up in the mornings through that, and to let them walk through all of these things, let you walk through it as a family. And Just don't let the things that happen in life be a discouragement and get in the way of why you're choosing to
Yeah,
walk this homeschool journey.
absolutely. Yeah, I thought as you were saying that, I was thinking,
Yes.
in maybe most of those situations, life is the lesson, you know? Maybe you're going to have some math and some grammar thrown in there too, but really walking through these situations as a family, I mean, your children and yourself, obviously, you will learn, all of you will learn so
And I think the
much.
problems that we go through in life and being able to go through them as a family, not separating your children from the problems, will actually help your family to be a better cohesive item. And I think that will help your children
Yes.
as they grow up and become adults in understanding how things were handled and that things can be handled in such a way to move forward in life and not just get hung up on things. And I think that there's just so much that we could
Mhm.
teach them instead of leaving them out of the equation, sending them away, not letting them
Right.
understand the things that are happening. And I think that they can learn so much from that, that are life lessons that we're actually using every single day. Some of that math you might not use every day, but life, we're going to use that.
Yeah, 100%. So I know we've talked in various episodes. You have touched on some challenges and trauma and things that your family has been through. So would you like to share a little bit about that now?
We've been through some things. I think if I go in time order, maybe it'll help me to remember. But I know I had one of my sons was born
Oh.
with a congenital heart disease, and he also had his trachea and esophagus were connected together. So we spent a good month
Mm.
initially in Duke, and that was my first stay with the Ronald McDonald House. I say I'm doing a tour of the Ronald McDonald houses. And so we had a big chunk there in the beginning of his life. And then we actually had to take a little bit of a break again a couple of years later for him to go back and have a minor surgery. And at the same time,
Mm.
as fate would have it, my middle son had a surgery at Duke the same week. And so we had another Ronald McDonald House stay. And then I think, that was really, really early on in my homeschool journey. So, it was just kind of like
Mm.
we just kind of did life. What we could do, we did, and what we couldn't, we just didn't, because obviously I wasn't
Mhm.
there for a portion of it. But then by the time my oldest son was burned in a flash fire, we had a bit of a stay at the burn clinic in Chapel Hill, and I had my third stay at a Ronald McDonald House. I was doing homeschool by then. I think I did have one child that I kind of had in a preschool program at the time. And so there was a lot of help
Mhm.
involved because I did go away for a period. And then even once I was back, I was having to take care of my older son. There was a lot of bandage changes and they took a long time out of the day. And so we kind of built the schedule around his schedule, but I don't think that there was a
Yeah.
lot at that time. I think we really tried to continue to have at least a baseline of school that happened
Yeah.
just to keep a little consistency in their lives. I don't know if I would have done the same thing looking back now after I've had many more years
Mhm.
of experience. I think that there may have been a little bit more of a break. I don't think I gave myself permission for that at the time, but I think that it all worked out just fine. God knew what he was doing through it all. I think it was really great for my children to see how our
Sure.
extended family and church family came into our lives during that time and did so much for us. There were literally throughout this, there were months at a time where I didn't cook a meal because our meals were brought in. And, surrounding yourself with people is a really good thing. So it's very
Yeah.
important that you don't make yourself
Yeah.
an island and make yourself be alone. So that was kind of the first half of my homeschool experience. Going into the second half, we dealt
Absolutely.
with a little bit deeper issue in that all
Okay.
three of my girls were sexually abused by a family member. And it rocked our world in a way that is just
Mm,
unimaginable. And,
mm.
you know, hurts and illnesses can be healed usually. This was not something that we were going to just go to the doctor and it was going to get better. And it affected each person in the family in a different way. Now, during that time, we did continue to homeschool. I think that we scheduled ourselves a
Sure.
couple of extra vacations. We took time to go away, to just
Mhm.
rest and relax. Went to our condo in Massanutten a couple of times just to take weeks where we didn't have to do anything. But overall, we continued to have, even if it was just that we did Bible in one
Sure.
class, we're going to do Bible and reading, or we're going to do Bible and math. We did something almost every day so that there was something that you could say was normal to hold on
Mm,
to. And then I really had to, I already had been dealing with, I have 5
right.
that I was homeschooling by then. I had one that had graduated, and they were 5 teenagers that were pretty close together and they all had different learning styles. So I'd already been trying to separate, some of the things and how they learned. And then I was dealing with 5 individuals that dealt with this trauma in very different ways. Because even the 2 brothers that were being homeschooled then, this didn't happen to them physically, but it happened to them
Mm.
mentally. And it took me a bit of time to recognize that. And I had to kind of slow things down a little bit and address that
Oh, yeah.
and start addressing each one of them individually, what they were
Mhm.
dealing with at any given time or what emotions would have risen. And of course, then we had hormones happening all at the same time. And so on any given day, one of them just may not be functioning. And I had to learn how to deal with that because I kind of felt like, well, I don't want to stop school for everybody, but I might need to stop school for one of them.
Right.
And that's been something that has continued as we are finishing our homeschool journey
Yeah.
that has never left. It is something that continues to be part of what we deal with during our homeschool journey. But it didn't stop us. And I really pray that because we weren't separating from
Yeah.
each other every day, we were spending this time together as a family, that it was what they all needed at the time and that we had each other to depend on. And I don't know if they had been going to
Yeah.
private school, public school, or anywhere else, if one of them needed to cry, what that would have looked like, as opposed to what we were able to do at home when we could stop and address what was happening in the moment.
Right. Absolutely.
But overall, I think that I have mostly grown children now that for the most part are part of society functioning
Yeah.
and, adding to. And I think that it's really been a wonderful journey. And most of it, I don't think I would have changed.
I think that hearing your story and being able to resonate with it myself with some of the things we've gone through, I think all of these stories in this series, they're all different. Some of them, the mom has issues, some of them, the kid, some of it is health, some of it's, trauma. But all the things, I think the theme that runs through is every single person would say that being able to be together on that journey is what was so important, what was so life giving, even through what has had to be, in a lot of these cases, the hardest time of your life. So, for all of you watchers and listeners out there, if you're emotional like me, as you're listening, as you're hearing and processing this difficult journey, that life can be hard and homeschooling can be hard. But in so many ways, homeschooling and life are not different. They are the same. And being able to walk that journey together as a family is so powerful. It is so important. And if for no other reason than to encourage you with that, that is why we're doing this series. So I hope that that was encouraging to you all out there. I hope that you have heard something that just helped you, that encouraged your soul, that let you know that you're not alone. So I hope that was a blessing to you. All right, let's move on to what's next. Well, we are in November. We are headed careening quickly into the holiday season. And I love homeschooling during the holidays. It is just such a joy, especially when you have little kids. I know it's still special when you have older kids, but with little kids, it seems like it's just so magical. So my helps for today is, what do you do about homeschooling during the holidays with little kids? What do you do? And I'll tell you what I did, and what I know a lot of people did, is I really took all that time from Thanksgiving all the way to the new year, and we basically focused on the holidays. And that was our school. We read a lot of books about the different holidays. We cooked a lot. We, did different craft activities, went on field trips, did service projects, and it was rich. But we did not sit down and do, math sheets or spelling lists or any of that during that time. We really took that time and focused on the holidays and just had, a wonderful time of doing that. That's not to say that's how you have to do it. I'm just giving you permission. If you want to take that time and make your homeschool, your school
That's
during
right.
the holidays look different, that is okay.
We actually did a study, a unit study on Christmas, and we studied all of the different parts of our traditions here in the United States that actually came from other countries.
Mhm.
And so we did different weeks for different countries and really dug in deep on the traditions that we got from those countries. And then we did this with a couple of other families. And so we would have food from whatever country that was. And I had a wonderful time. And I actually think I learned more during that, and my kids learned more during that than we did some of our normal weeks. So it's actually one of my most favorite things to do during the holidays is to do study, to learn, but to study about things that has to do with the actual holidays themselves.
I love that so much. That is so fun. Maybe I'll bring that back with the 16-year-old this year. I don't know. I don't know if he would appreciate it that much, but you never know. All right. Now let's check out some of our homeschool news for today.
Hi, I'm Tracy Marsh, NCHE's Region 4 Liaison, and I'm here to bring you homeschool news. Do you have a student graduating this upcoming spring? If so, NCHE has lots to offer to meet your graduation needs. A distinctive diploma, a statewide graduation ceremony, a special graduate edition of the Greenhouse, and wonderful college scholarships. Don't miss these opportunities to celebrate this pivotal occasion. The ceremony is May 23rd, 2026 in Winston-Salem. Learn more about these offerings at our Graduate Central on our website. NCHE Day at the Hornets will take place on Saturday, January 24th, 2026 at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. Join the excitement when the Hornets take on the Washington Wizards. Admission includes the game against the Wizards, the Hornets special Faith and Family concert, and exclusive fun experiences for kids ages 5 through 18. Be sure to check the website nche.com/activities for more details. Until next time, this is Tracy Marsh with your homeschool news. Have a blessed day.
We love going to the Hornets game. It is so much fun. Usually there is a time before the game when the kids can go out on the Hornets practice court and shoot around. And that's a lot of fun. There's an opportunity, for the folks that sign up early, their kids can, high five the players as they're running out on the court. And there's just a lot of really neat touches that are a part of this special event. It is the Faith and Family Night at the Hornets. So there will be an emphasis on faith and family, which is awesome. There will be some sort of music there, some kind of a concert. I'm not exactly sure yet what that will be. New this year is that the game is on a Saturday. So up till now, it's always been during the week. And so on Saturday this year, which is exciting for me personally, because my husband gets to go and not have to take a day off work. So this is going to be a fun whole family event for us. All right. Well, if that's all that we have for you today, as always, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. I already said I really hope that this whole series has been an encouragement to you. But if it makes you think of someone, somebody comes to mind while you're watching or listening, please share it with them. I think it could really be helpful and encouraging for them as well. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions for us, please send them to us. We absolutely appreciate every single one. You can send them to us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. And as always, we want you to keep homeschooling with confidence and joy. So until next time, bye-bye.